Good morning, Kit. Thank you for sparing the time to talk to the Brain Tumour charity today. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Kit Vincent. I am a filmmaker who happens to have a brain tumor. I started making a film in 2018 when I was diagnosed about partly about my diagnosis, but also about my family's kind of journey and how they were coping with this. It kind of started as a film about my experience, but it developed into something much larger than that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see the film last year at the Rain Dance Festival, and it's a really brilliant exploration of the whole situation you found yourself in. But also, it I think it struck the audience and the reviews I've read about it as well. Explain that it's your way because you're a documentary filmmaker. It's your way of um, asking questions and helping yourself and your family to deal with the news of your diagnosis. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I think probably a lot of other filmmakers would agree that using a camera can be a really powerful way to kind of create the right circumstances to ask questions where you wouldn't usually ask those questions of the people around you, and especially like the people closest to you. There's a lot of stuff that I explored in the film that without the camera there and a reason to have those conversations, I would never have had them. So it kind of just allowed this space to for us to open up and engage with this topic, which is a really difficult subject to approach.
It is, yeah, and I think people process it in all sorts of different ways, depending on what they're like as people, what their relationships with their families are like, and the circumstances they find themselves in. Um, so, can you tell us a bit about what type of brain tumor you've been diagnosed with and how things are now? How's treatment been?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I have a grade 2 astrocytoma, so it's quite low grade. It's growing slowly. I had surgery in 2018, and then I had radiotherapy 2 years ago. And radiotherapy was actually, for me, the outcome of that was really good. It really helped with my seizures. I'm actually getting some results tomorrow, so we'll find out what's what is happening. But I mean, with this stuff, it's like the time is the main thing. If you're afforded the luxury of time in my situation, the longer it goes on, the easier it gets to kind of deal with these kind of 6 monthly scans and just the dealing with like the uncertainty, because the uncertainty is the main thing. And I think that's why I really wanted to get across in the film, is that uncertainty. And I think I'm making the film sound like it's really a sad film about death, but it's really not. The film is a celebration of life and the kind of joy that you find in these moments. When you're faced with such a like extreme, uh, one extreme in your life, which is kind of the idea of your mortality, all of the other parts of your life become so present as well. The love, humor, all of that stuff also become really present. So yeah, I think I don't want to say my life is better for this experience, but I have learned to kind of appreciate a lot more that I don't think I would have at this age if I hadn't been diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've heard that. It sounds counterintuitive, but yes, a difficult diagnosis makes you reassess what really matters in life. And yes, the film is has lots of laughs in it and lots of joy, particularly in your relationship with your dad, who is an amazing character. Um, is he on a stand-up tour now, having played a part in the film?
He's not. He did actually have to go to one of the film festivals. So about 3 weeks ago, he went to Zurich instead of me because I couldn't go. So he now has his own. life through the film. But no, I'm trying to persuade him. But he's a deep introvert, and it doesn't really come across in the film. But I think what the film does very well is like bring out the side of him that most people don't see, which is his deeply dark, funny side. Um, and like a lot of people don't see that about him, but the film has managed to kind of bring that out and show that to audiences. And I think that's given given kind of new life to his existence, which is fun.
Yeah, he comes across as philosophical, but also full of fun. Um, and I think the film also, because you were waiting on the end of the phone for, a lot of people call it scan anxiety, but for your scan results, and it was during lockdown when you couldn't go in to see your treating team all that often. I think it really portrayed how difficult it is to wait between those milestones to see how effective treatment is being. Um, but as you say, there were lots of amusing moments as well, and the exploration of your relationship with your mum, um, who works in. Am I right in saying she works in palliative care? So
Yeah, I mean, she's a community nurse, but she's a kind of she's quite high. She's a band six nurse, so she deals a lot with people, in at end of life care. So her relationship is very close to this subject, which meant I think that you'd kind of expect her to to be able to deal with this easier, but I think because she sees it and understands the full process of it, it was much harder for her to relate to the situation. She found it very difficult because I think there's a part of the film where she says, I understand death as a living process, um, which, as in she knows what it means to go from being healthy to dying. And I think that is really quite visceral for her. So to imagine like her own son in that situation was really difficult. Whereas my dad is much less, involved in that. So he can kind of block it out and just kind of engage with me in this way now.
mhm, mhm. So having been at some film festivals, Red Herring is now going to be screened at selected cinemas throughout the UK, and people can stream it as well. So, are you pleased with how it's being received and the fact that it's out there?
Yeah, I mean, so from the 3rd of May, it's going to be in cinemas across the UK and on demand on in all the kind of major platforms. Yeah, I mean, you don't start a film like this with that as the main goal, like some people start films with that being the goal. With this, it was like a reaction to something that was happening to me, and that the kind of long-term plan never came into my mind until it started, until it was given to me the opportunity. So yeah, it's exciting. And it's also just it's fascinating. I think there's so much, there's so many films and so much stuff about illness and, cancer. And often it's done in a very similar tone. And I think that's quite hard to get people to engage with it. So like my aim was always like, how can we soften this in a way that doesn't hide away from the facts, but also allows people to kind of watch it, understand it in a way that's comfortable, and then they can digest it and enjoy it as well. Come away from it being like, wow, that was a fun film, even though it was really tough.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll make sure the community that we support knows how to, where their nearest cinema is that is showing Red Herring, and how to stream it as well. And we try to support people going through similar situations to yourself, as best we can. We provide information and someone to talk to, and peer support groups. Is there more we could be doing? How has your experience been of the healthcare pathway?
I mean, for me, I think it was because of when it happened at the start of 2018 or the end of 2018, and then because of COVID, I think it was a very unique experience. It's very hard for me to know kind of what the markers are for what was normal, because none of it felt normal to me. Um, but since then, the NHS has been great, and it really upsets me actually seeing people when people are talking about NHS waiting times and blah blah. I think when you have a serious illness, my experience is that it opens up a whole nother level of the NHS, and maybe that isn't how it should be. But when I hear people complaining about the NHS, it's like, yeah, well, maybe the waiting time was long for you because you had a broken leg, but that's not so bad but if you've got a brain tumor, I had the perfect experience. My teams have been great, and it's a totally different experience where you live. I live in London. It's completely individual. Mine has been fine. The support I've received, I've been offered, cancer psychology services. It's been great. Maybe that's also just who I am. I will never say a bad thing about the NHS. Um, I've been offered. I've also been told about brain tumor charity. I've been offered support by Maggie's. Like, they really point you in the right direction. My nurse specialist is one of the most special people I've ever come across. She deserves a medal for how kind and supportive. I have her not like a mobile number for her, and I can text her, and she just replies within a few hours. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like shocked by how impressive she is. Like, I really think that I should be able to offer her up for an award. Um, I don't have anything bad to say about my treatment, if I'm honest.
That is really good to hear. That's really good to hear. I know that sometimes people also say that because you mentioned a broken leg there, you can't see that someone has a brain tumor necessarily. How difficult is it to navigate the world when it's not obvious that you're living with a condition?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question. And I'm currently making a film with a charity in East London, called Headway East London, which are brain injury charity. And a lot of, a lot of the members there are people who have, invisible disabilities. And for them, it's so important. It's really difficult to understand what it's like for someone going through something like this, and to work and do, just to live your normal life whilst you're going through this is so hard. The fatigue is really difficult. It's a really real thing to deal with. Seizures are, and even if you don't suffer with like really bad seizures, the anxiety around seizures is a whole nother thing. It's such a profoundly deep experience. And I just think that it cannot be explained or understood unless you go through it. And I don't think anyone will understand it. I don't think people in government who write up policies about this stuff will ever really understand it. It's really, it's so hard to get across, and if you're getting your PIP case reviewed and you go and try and explain, it's like, yeah, well, you look fine. Yeah, and it's like, okay, today maybe I'm fine because I woke up feeling okay, but that's just today.
Yeah.
Um, it's really it's awful. It's a really awful experience to be living in this. Like, it's super isolating. It's really, really isolating. And I think like my film shows that experience quite well, like the duality of being able to enjoy your life, but also the unbearable kind of weight of this invisible illness. Um, and I think the support around that is really important.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, we will continue to do our best to increase understanding of this condition. And as you say, the the invisible, isolating nature of it. And we'll also continue to bang the drum for the disease to be prioritised. We're calling for a national brain tumour strategy. That kind of thing has been put in place for other conditions like stroke. So it's feasible. We know it works. We know it helps. So so we'll continue to push for that. And we wish you the very best with the results that you're waiting for tomorrow. And is there anything else you'd like to say about the film or about the nature of this disease?
No, just thank you for, giving me the platform to talk about the film. And if anyone goes to see it, I hope that they come away from it feeling positive and taking the right message away from it. I think that if you have suffered from, this illness and are affected by it, or, you have a loved one who's passed away and you watch it, I just hope that you take the good parts from it, and the right things from it, you know, the love and the joy and all of that, those parts that I really wanted to get in there.